final poster project. I looked at precipitation events and the pH of the Western Duck Pond by me. So, to get started, the study area of the Western Duck Pond, it's near Peabody Hall. It's pretty much as south as of campus as you can get, and I chose this. I figured this would be a good tester for pH because pH is affected a lot by runoff from nutrients and fertilizers, as we learned earlier in the course. And as you can see indicated by the topographic profile here, it's there's some pretty steep drop-offs that go into the pond itself. You see right here 860 down to 820, very steep, even steeper over here from 870. And look at how close these lines are. Of course, the closer they are together means the steeper the slope. They just go directly into this pond. And then it goes down further. You see 790 down here. It just continues south, but it's a lot more gradual because the lines are a lot more separated here. So this means that the runoff from any of the water is it's gonna go way quicker into this pond. It's gonna be quicker and probably a lot more of it. So observations up here. There's some banks of sediment along the pond, as you can see right here. There's some concrete that extends all the way around the edge of the bank. It's not all of it, but there is quite a bit. Surrounding vegetation, lots of trees, bushes, and shrubs. Not exactly near the shore on the side I was on, obviously. The other side did have a lot. It's important to note, though, however, there was a lot of sediment, including stones, in a parking lot that was south of the pond. It was sort of around here. That might be important to note. High turbidity, a lot of dead organic matter, dead leaves were in there. As you can see, the water there is not very clear. You can also see a lot more of the vegetation I was talking about up here, and of course, there's a little path here, and you can kind of see the stones, and the parking lot I was talking about is up here. So, little sidetrack, but that's what we're dealing with. There was a stream flowing into the pond, and there was continuous flow because of it. There was also a fountain here, kind of just it was bubbling when I went to test it for my control, but it was still moving. My hypothesis for this was that the pH of the water will become more acidic following precipitation events due to nutrients commonly in farmland. So, as we learned earlier, Oxford is mostly surrounded by farmland, and farmland indicates a lot of fertilizer, a lot of possible livestock, which means a lot of nutrients such as nitrate, nitrite, phosphorus, commonly found in fertilizers. Those can seep into the groundwater and run off into certain ponds, which could affect the pH. And pH is important, as I will explain later. So following the methods right here, sampling, I used some pH testing strips that I got off of Amazon. To test them, you got to quickly dunk them in the water, about a second, and then quickly read after. So testing, I tested the water on a day where there was no precipitation for at least a week. This was so I could get my control, so I could really see that there was really nothing affecting the pH besides the pond as it was. Because like I said, there was a stream flowing into here. The stream was kind of over here, but yeah, it was flowing into here, and of course the bubbling fountain. And I would wait for there to be a precipitation event. I wanted to test both rain, and since it was going to snow, I was like, why don't I test snow? Because I was just going to test rain originally, but I was like, okay, let's test snow, and then go back to the pond and retest directly after the precipitation event. So really, I waited about a day. I tried to go the day right after if the conditions were nice and time allotted me because I was very busy most of these days. But yeah, I would just go and test it again right after to see if there was any changes. So now we go to the results sections. Graph I made in Excel. The pH, I've ranged it from 1 to 14 because that's the scale. The control, the basic, well, not basic, but the control was at an 8 pH, which is still pretty neutral. It's not pure neutral, but it's a little bit more than average. So, and then I tested it after rain, I believe, right after November 13th. We had a big rain event, November 13th. So I decided that'd be a perfect day to go. The pH was actually at 7, which kind of surprised me because I really expected it to be a lot lower because like a lot of water gets in at a time and the runoff probably would have been greater, and that's when I tested that. So The rain test showed pure neutral at 7. But then what I thought was even more interesting was the snow test, and I tested the snow test right here, as you can see. It's important to note that the water was actually frozen at the time. I didn't expect that, so what I did is I took a stick and poked a hole in the water and then tested it from there. And that was surprisingly low. It showed a 6 pH, which was very surprising to me. And so, important to note the pH strips, which you can see down here. This is the snow pH test result. If you don't believe me, there's some snow on the ground, and I'm wearing my winter gloves right there because it was really cold. And so, although the pH it did change slightly to more acidic as I predicted in my hypothesis. However, it wasn't significant enough to show that it went straight out of neutral, or it wasn't, just a completely like detrimental change. However, we go to the implications and mitigation. So basically, my results interpretation. So based on this, I figured that pH it can change fairly quickly in a lake given the precipitation event. I mean, like these are not me waiting a while. This is directly the day after. And an acidic pH can be detrimental to aquatic life, even if it's slight. This is I got off directly off of the EPA's website for pH. Some aquatic life is very sensitive. Certain types of fish, a lot of plants can be affected by this. Just so it's important to keep your pH as stable as possible, and usually that's around the neutral at 7, between 6 and 8. So the results of the experiment indicate that more intense, extended precipitation events like blizzards, possible flooding, may change pH more significantly. Like I said, these weren't great by any means. It was basically your average. It wasn't a ton of, it was just a normal like rain event we get every once in a while, snow we get every once in a while. So maybe if they were greater and more intense, possibly we could have seen a greater change for them to be more acidic, because more runoff and more fertilizer, or sorry, excuse me, more nutrients would just seep more and more and more into this water we got here. And so some mitigating things is that we can add a lot of buffers, as you saw, a lot of the vegetation around this. There's quite a bit. However, a lot of it is also surrounded by, just concrete, sediment, a lot of stuff that you wouldn't want to put in some water. So maybe some more along the shore, replacing the concrete with, something a lot more sustainable, and then remove accumulating dead organic matter. As I said, like, of course, you can see here a lot of the dead trees. Just compare this tree to that tree, and this one to this one. This was all just going into the water, which, it's not the worst thing. It's just usually not good if it builds up over time, because that could really affect the ecosystem ecologically with how the aquatic life and that may interact with either a surplus or not enough of this matter. So conclusion, I chose a study area with low topography, had more downhill runoff. Nutrients and fertilizers like nitrate could be factors in runoff altering pH. pH is important for maintaining healthy aquatic ecosystems and identifying corrosion underground pipes, because the more acidic a pH is, the more it can corrode a pipe. And so the fountain, as you can see in here, that could, if they are using metal pipes for that, that could corrode it, could alter that, and that could seep more and more, not good nutrients into the water, which can make it more unsuitable for aquatic ecosystems. And then precipitation events possibly alter the pH of lakes, but not significantly, which was indicated by my results. And here are my references from the EPA about pH, about the pH of water from a medical journal. And then this was my database I used from the Web of Science for Miami University about fertilizer runoff and vegetation. So that's my presentation.